360 Degrees of Success. I'm the host, Jeff Bloom, and I have with me today Matt Radin, who is JV Man, and we have a special guest who will introduce in a little bit, Dr. Greg Pedro, who will be here via Skype from New Jersey. So, Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jeff. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. And Matt, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you do as JV Man? I mean, I'm already familiar with what you do, but for the viewers, kind of what you do.
Well, JV Man is joint venture manager, mediator, and attorney. And we help people to get referrals and get paid for the referrals you make. And we do that through a network management organization. So my company's Liberty Group, and we call it a collaboration and referral network management organization. So we're building a network of people who work together, collaborate better to get better results than you could possibly get if you were working alone.
Great. And I've been working with Matt for a little over 2 years now. He's very good at what he does. And we have a special guest with us who's also involved with the program. So, Matt, tell us about our guest, Dr. Greg Pedro.
Well, Dr. Pedro and I have been working together for over a year now. And he came to me originally looking to do some sort of a joint venture, something to help him to get some financial freedom. And that's what we've decided to do, is work together, create a financial freedom formula for dentists. So he'll tell you a little bit about himself in a little bit, but the main thing that we're here to start the conversation. We call it a Total Smile Protection. And totalsmileprotection.info is where you're going to get all the information about Total Smile Protection. And the key is how dentists can avoid losing their financial freedom. Because there's so many ways. Lawsuits, you're into mediation. Right. People can lose everything through lawsuits. I think Greg can talk about that a little bit too. Dr. Pedro can talk a little bit about how lawsuits can affect you. But we have an article in there called How Dentists Can Avoid Losing Their Financial Freedom by Selling Their Practice to the Wrong Dental Services Organization. And they don't even know that there's ways you can sell your practice. One way you can be a millionaire, the other way you have to work for the rest of your life. So that's what we're all about, is helping people to come to the table, collaborate, and figure out the best way for them to get financial freedom.
Great. And Greg, I understand that you've had experience for the heartbreak of divorce, and please tell us how your divorce impacted your life professionally and financially as well.
Yeah, well, it's great to be on the show and share my story. It's an interesting one. I practiced dentistry. I was in my own practice for about 17 years. I had a specialty practice, and it was sailing along very nicely for most of my career. We had a small practice that did a large volume of surgical work. It was just me and my wife, and so through the problems that I was having in my wife, she had a chronic illness, and she was the only one managing the office, and I was doing the dentistry. And problems escalated in our personal life that spilled over into my business life. And I'm not sure if you want me to go into detail at this moment, but it definitely impacted my ability to do dentistry, and had some very tough years to deal with. And basically, it came to a head, and I lost everything. And I met Matt last year and told him my story, and it was really a decision whether I wanted to continue on in the path of dentistry anymore. And through my association with Matt and looking at things that definitely could have helped me at that time, if I had met him probably 17 years earlier, I'd have a different story to tell you. But I'm happy to be able to be back on my feet, and my story will help a lot of people.
In the mediation business, I wish I had a dime for every person that said to me, "Where were you 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago?" They didn't know about mediation. They didn't even know it existed as an option. I had one person tell me, if I killed my wife, I'd be out of jail by now. So, somebody actually said that to me. But just to throw that back at you, did you know mediation was an option? Or is it something you tried, or you guys just went to the litigation process because that's all you knew?
Well, it became a real complicated situation. Obviously, I love my wife very much. She loved me, but, our problems became bigger than that. We did a lot of counseling, but we didn't know about mediation, and the way things were resolved could have been handled a lot differently if we knew our options.
Well, that's why I asked you to talk about that, because you're a basketball player and a basketball coach, and you know what it is to be victorious, right? And that's
Right.
really what we're doing here. We're just laying the foundation for the before picture, so we can move on to the after picture. And that's what I wanted to make sure that Jeff just addressed a little bit about how mediation can be used to put together deals, how we can, like when we're helping a dentist to buy or sell a practice, how we can help them to do deals as a neutral. So you don't wind up having thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees. You want to address how we're handling that now?
Yeah, real quick, just to simplify it a little bit for people who aren't familiar with dentists and practice and things like that, just to throw a sample into divorce, is nobody knows what's best for the children, what's best for the finances, and this applies to any type of conflict, basically, but the parties involved. And to have an input into what is being said and what goes into the final agreement, rather than hiring two attorneys to fight for everything, there's a huge difference. Being told what to do and resulting in a win-lose, or even worse, a lose-lose when you go through the litigation system. I like to think that mediation, alternative dispute resolution, results in a win-win, because people that have an impact, have a say to what goes into the final agreement, are more likely to agree upon it, not breach the deal, right, and have to go back to court again, hire attorneys later on down the line. So expanding my mediation into not dentists and doctors and conflict that comes up among them, it's really that simple.
Well, what's really powerful about where we are is Dr. Pedro is now introducing us to a lot of dentists he knows. And they're all being asked very simply, are you on the path to financial freedom? Because we've created a financial freedom formula that says you need to own your own business, you need your own real estate and your own bank. If you have those three things, you're on the path to financial freedom. And in order to have that, there's a lot of agreements you need, a lot of documents, a lot of contracts, and so forth. And so we have a hedge fund with $30 million ready to buy practices. So we know we got the buyer covered. We have a business brokerage that's ready to help dentists to find practices, buy practices, and to do deals. We have a real estate brokerage, part of our team, that will help them buy and sell real estate. So by having a mediator who's already there to help being a neutral and put deals together, that's so much more powerful than just say, get your attorney. People automatically say, just get your attorney. But we want the attorney to come and review the contract after it's been done by the mediator.
Absolutely. And one of the major misconceptions of mediation I want to clear up, kind of get the question more than anything else, is, well, don't we have to agree to everything before we come to see a mediator? And that's definitely not the case. The mediator is there, that professional, whether it's me or somebody else, that's trained to help the parties get to the underlying issues and get them to negotiate what needs to be negotiated in order to get a resolution.
So, Dr. Pedro, Jeff's going to have a whole bunch of questions for you, but I just want to set the stage by saying that a lot of dentists I've spoken to are going to need a lot of coaching, and of course you're a coach as well. It's really important that you're going to be helping dentists with this as well as part of this business model. Because a lot of dentists I find are so focused on what they don't want, they don't have the time to think about what they really do want. And that's part of our team is helping them to do that, and I think it's important for you too. Because I've been told that it's easier to sell aspirin to a man with a headache than it is to sell vitamins to a guy who's looking to be well. But if you think about it, the headache is the thing you don't want. So
Exactly.
It's easy to sell an aspirin to somebody who's got something they don't want. But we want to help people to figure out what they do want. What they do want is financial freedom. What they do want is time freedom. What they do want to do is spend more time with their kids, doing the things they love to do. And that's where the segue is to talk a little bit about, we call him Ben, is not his real name, but somebody who's already, you've introduced us to, who's now in the conversation with the hedge fund and the business broker about how we might help him to not just sell his practice, but transition out over time. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think when I think of most of at least my colleagues that I graduated with, most of us graduated with a headache. So, it's confusing. I mean, dental school is a very challenging place, and so it's really about survival and graduating, and there's really not a lot of time to focus on how to run a business. And there are very few classes that we take in school that prepare us for the business world. And most of the graduates aren't really ready to go into, having their own practice right away. Most will spend an average of at least 3 to 5 years of, getting their philosophy down and getting their skills up before they take on, some will go right into private practice, but the majority will work for somebody. But then, when you go into your own practice, you may be fortunate enough to have a mentor and the dentist stays on, but quite a few go into the practice and they take over the practice, and they've got to sort of learn while they're on the hot seat, while they're in the fire. And that would be somewhat of the case with a fellow colleague of mine, Ben, who started his own practice, and his practice was a family practice. It is a family practice. He's still in practice to this day, and I've been in good touch in touch with him. But he's going through a lot of heartache with he's now divorced recently, and that was very, very ugly, and that affected his family and his kids, and and obviously it affected him. And there's been a lot of turmoil that he has had to recover from. And so he's at a point now where he's 54, 55, in his mid 50s, and he's picking up the pieces, and I give him a lot of credit for being able to do that. But he also now is struggling with all the complicated questions to ask, like, what do I want to do with my practice? How long do I want to practice? And how do I get out of this? And how do I get out of this smoothly and where it's good for my patients and good for myself?
Absolutely, which really works into the next question I had for you. Can you give an example how working with Liberty will help you or help a dentist create the transition plan, and how it's helped you?
Well, this is really an extension of what we're doing with Ben, right? Because his concern was, like, he wanted to build his practice up over the next few years and sell it. That was his thought. And I kept asking him, like, why? And he said, well, I want to be able to spend more time in California with my parents, for example. So have you thought that we could possibly put you together with a dentist in California so you can spend more time in California? He said he wanted to build his practice up. I said, well, what if you could sell a piece of it today and have all the help you needed to double it, quadruple it? We can help him to do all that if we work together. And so if he sells it in 2 or 4 years for twice as much as it's worth today, he said he'd be very happy about that, right?
Correct.
I
think it's for the prevailing feeling would be, okay, I've spent a great deal of my professional life building this practice, and much of a dentist or a professional person's identity is wrapped up in their business. So it's a big step. So who do they trust to get advice from? And today one of the big movements is the dental service organizations, or DSOs. These are corporate backed dental practices are coming in, and they are offering to buy practices from retiring dentists. And one of the possible shortcomings there is that it's a one-shot deal. They come in and they buy the practice, and then it's over. But with Liberty, and what Matt has developed here, is a way to think a little bit more globally. Like, okay, you're 55 and you're still young. Do you want to stay on? Do you want to what can we do, and what is it that you want to do with the rest of your life? And I think with DSOs, and a lot of times with these business brokers, is that they're just looking to make the sale and get as much money as they can for the sale, which isn't a bad idea. But how about what happens after that? What do you do with your life, and how does it affect you and your staff and your patients and your family? And that's what Matt's done, is he's put together a tremendous set of questions that lead to learning more about that particular doctor who may want to sell their practice, or a doctor who wants to buy a practice. And the questions lead to the doctor really looking a little bit deeper than just a quick sale.
Yeah, well, it's amazing that just within the last week we've got a commitment from another dentist who was able to retire at the age of 55, and so he's been retired about 10 years already. And he wants to be involved with us in a big way because he loves what we're doing. And the main reason is because he knows that he sold his business, his practice, for $600,000. He sold his building for $600,000, put it in his bank, right? Business, real estate, and bank. Put it in his bank, invested it wisely, and that doubled and doubled. So instead of $1 million, it's $2 million, $4 million, like that. And when we started talking to Ben, I saw we can help him at least get $1 million to $2 million, where if he didn't work with us, he'd probably get less than $500,000, because he has got like a business that's worth maybe $300, and his real estate's worth maybe $300. It's like $600,000 if he sold it today. I'm confident we can get that to double much more by working with the hedge fund that'll come up with the money now. I mean, if you want to get out, we can do that. But the question is doesn't he want to stay in more so he can double that money and quadruple that money? That's all about being the bank, right? So, and the bank is also for you too, because whenever you refer somebody to us, it's a dentist who winds up doing selling the practice and the business to us, we're going to be stewards of that, right? We're going to make sure that they're protected, that they get the most they can, but also that the hedge fund is going to do well because they want to acquire 20 practices this year, and we want to build a model using Total Smile Protection to be able to 10 times that over the next 3 to 5 years. So this collaboration we're doing, like we're doing right now, is really important because the more we collaborate, the better ideas we get, and we can help a lot more people. And with Ben, we're doing that right now.
Really? If I could just interject something, that's stirring inside too, is that there's quite a few dentists that I speak to that they love their patients and they love the dental part, but it's the business part that has got them bogged down. And so, quite a few who think that they want to retire, they don't really want to retire. They would love to continue, to be in a situation where they could just treat patients and, sort of control their schedule a little bit more. And the system that you put together actually, because I heard it when we spoke to Ben, is that he was thinking about getting out. And then as we started talking to him about other options on, how he can, buy into the Freedom Formula, he started now talking about possibly staying on and doing some dentistry because he loves doing dental work. Yeah. And that's the beauty is, if somebody is just burnt out and now we present them with a way to continue to practice dentistry in a way that would be, enjoyable for them.
Absolutely.
Real quick, those who are interested in more information on Total Smile Protection, the website is Total Protection Shield.
No. TotalSmileProtection.info will give you access to this video.
Okay.
And the article that we did on the DSOs, because the DSO and the business brokerage are the two things that you got to be really careful about. Because
give that website again, real quick.
TotalSmileProtection.info is where you'll get all this information. This is where the video. We'd love you to give out the video if you want to work with us closely and actually get signed up as a referral partner. We can do things like set up a capture page for you, and so capture the referrals you make. As Dr. Pedro is doing right now, right? So as he sends people to us, we capture that information, and if we make a sale, he's going to make a few $1,000s. It could be $5,000, it could be $10,000 on just a phone call if it's a good referral. So it's exciting, right? Because we're helping dentists make money many ways while helping them to keep their staff happy, and most importantly, keep their patients happy, which is what is the opposite of what happens when they sell to most DSOs, where it becomes more of a corporate thing, all about money, about making big profits, and the patient goes last. With our model, patient goes first.
So, Dr. Pedro, before Liberty, you really didn't have a plan, for financial freedom. Since you've been with Liberty, now you have that plan and a path moving forward. Can you discuss that?
Yeah. Before Liberty, I thought I was going to live forever. And dentistry has always been a love of mine. I love working with people. I'm a people person. Love working with my hands. I'm artistic. So I became a prosthodontist, which is a specialist in tooth replacement. I did my own lab work. I had my own lab on the premises. And, I got involved in some new technology, which involved a CAT scan in the office and some computer-guided software. So we were right on the cutting edge. But like I said, I had, some personal issues, family stuff that, just became overwhelming and all the balls were in the air. And, with Matt's system of owning your own real estate, I hadn't really given that a thought, and looking back, that could have been a reality for me very easily. Owning your own bank, I didn't know anything about that, and now I know quite a bit. And having my own business, the dental business was my job, really. It wasn't really my own business. Now, with Matt, we've expanded that definition. And if something were to happen to your job, do you have something else to fall back on? And so, that's another key point. So, The Liberty and the Freedom Formula, that would have been great to know about while I was flying high, because I would have had certain things in place.
But now
Okay.
we're applying it to you, and as you bring more dentists, we'll identify what are those dentists who would be an ideal person for you to move in with, partner with. And that way you'll have your own practice. And we're only going to look at practices that have their own real estate, that have their own office building. So you'll have your own real estate. And the bank we're building up right now. So every day we're moving one step closer to your financial freedom, right?
Right. And, the way I look at this, Jeff, is that, I went through, some really hard, trying times. They seem to last forever. But, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I'm about 3 or 4 years removed from that. And, I'm a lot wiser, a lot smarter. And I feel like what I went through is, I can speak to anybody and say that you can get, with the right information and aligning yourself up with the right people, you don't have to, go through, the extreme example that I'm able to show when you don't have a plan.
And Matt's always said over the years, as I know him, and in developing the programs that he does, is, and I've heard you saying before, but Matt really uses it. If you love what you do, then it's not work, right? And this
Exactly.
is what. So there are two different. There's a reality of what goes on in your finances and everything. You can still love what you do, but if those things are hanging over your head, then you're really not enjoying what you're doing.
Right.
Like work.
Exactly. And dentistry is really exciting. It keeps on expanding and growing with new things, and so anybody who is a dentist that's not enjoying it, I really think that it's because they need to look at their strategy and their plan, and how they're aligning their team and who they have to support them. And if those things are in place, I think it sets it up for family life and personal life and professional life to be as great as they imagine.
Well, the article about you can lose your financial freedom by choosing the wrong DSO has some statistics for the larger ones like Aspen and Heartland, something like that. I'm not talking about anyone in specific, but I do know a doctor who was involved with one of those big ones, so like 600 dentists or 800 dentists, and it's almost like they plan to take away the dentist's financial freedom. In terms of owning your own business, you sold it. You don't own anything anymore. As far as real estate, they put you in a shopping center. Now think about this. If you're in a shopping center and you have a successful practice, in 10 years, they're going to take a look at your numbers, and they're going to double your rent. Now, the question is, if you're going to double your rent, do you want to pay the rent to them, or do you want to pay it to yourself? Right? That's the end of the story. That's why you have to have your own real estate, because you want to pay the rent to you instead of paying it to them. Same thing with the bank. By mixing a combination of whole life insurance and the hedge fund and a couple of other secret ingredients, we can have your own bank where your bank can be generating 15% through the hedge fund, and the hedge fund will be investing in your practice, in your business and real estate. So one community is taking care of your whole financial freedom. And so we have to contrast that with people who are looking at the DSOs that are taking away their financial freedom, and engage them in the conversation of, please watch this video that we're doing now. Please read the article, which will come up after they watch the video. And let's talk about financial freedom. How can we help you? So that's it. Go ahead.
And real quick, Dr. Grego, how might TSP work for you?
Well, I am able to, connect with the strongest demographic would be, doctors, in the mid-50s who are now starting to look at what am I going to do, for the rest of my dental career and my practice. And so, I have I'm going to date myself, but a great Rolodex and of contacts. And so I reach out, and I'm real sincere. I don't want anybody to go through what I went through. So if I'm able to help now, but even feel more rewarding to help them, transition, into retirement if that's what they want to do. And so, the total protection is being able to lay out for them, what the formula is and how I can support them. Matt has brought up the fact that I'm a coach, and so I'm looking for opportunities to be able to help them in that capacity, giving them some consulting advice. I do believe in systems, and so that's always part of it. To try to be efficient and to take the stress away from the workday, and obviously be profitable for both the patient and the doctor. So total protection is just I feel so good about it because it's kind of my way to take some of my nightmare experiences, and it sort of gives me more credibility. I'm already credible as a dentist, but now I'm credible in saying, these are the things that you want to avoid, and that also includes the buying dentist, not just the seller, but the young dentist who wants to buy the practice, who really is the one who needs a little bit of hand-holding in the beginning.
Absolutely. Real quick, we have about 2 minutes left, so I don't want to cut you short. We can probably go on. We might have to do another segment. But just in closing, is there anything you wanted to cover, Dr. Greg, that we haven't covered?
No, just that with the DSOs, I have another good friend of mine who actually bought into a DSO, and not all DSOs are bad. I don't want to say that. I mean, it depends on, you have to do your homework and you do your due diligence. But for the most part, what Matt was saying is, you go in and you now work for them, and you're, they're basically cracking the whip and want to see production, so, and, you basically are not leveraging your time. You're in there, being the producer, and it can be stressful. So my advice for any doctor, particularly young doctor thinking about going into working for a DSO, is, look at the lifestyle that person has. I mean, money's a nice thing to have, but if you've got to work 80 hours a week to get it, is that the trade-off that you want?
Well, that's a good thing you brought up the younger dentist, because we've designed into our financial freedom formula, helping that young dentist who's maybe $250,000, $300,000, $400,000 in debt after school. We can help him get rid of that debt in half the time, transition to his own practice. He might own only 5 or 10% at the beginning, but he'll become the owner of that practice over time. And depending on the transition plan, we'll give the selling dentist a lot more money. We'll give the younger dentist the ability to own the practice quicker, and give the younger dentist the ability to retain more patients because he's being a better dentist, because he's got the mentorship of the older dentist. I think that's so important, isn't it, that the older dentists show more responsibility for their patients, that before leaving, that their patients are taken care of.
Absolutely. I mean, you're basically talking about a mentor, and the right situation and the right mentorship is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah.
All right, Dr. Pedro, really, thanks a lot for taking the time to appear on the show today. I'd like to have you back again maybe sometime, and obviously we'll be talking because we're both working with Matt. But thanks again for coming on. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Hey, real quick, Matt, in closing, we got about a minute left where people can find out more information about JV and this, what we were talking about.
Just for this purpose, just go to Total Smile Protection. TotalSmileProtection.info will take you to this information. The website is not up yet. We don't have a lot of things up because we just want people to come to the table and start collaborating with us. All of the other stuff is ready to go, but we want people to just get educated, come to us and have a conversation about what their plan is for financial freedom, and see if there's a way we can help them.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for being here as well.
Thank you.
This concludes another segment of 360 Degrees of Success. Thank you for tuning in. Real quick on Village Connection Radio, we've got some new news, right? Periscope, Twitch, and YouTube Live we're on, and some more venues coming soon. So take care. I'll see you again next